Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Bird Whisperer radio show, coming to you live from the Congaree National Park in beautiful South Carolina, USA. We're going to be discussing the wonderment, the beauty, and the awesomeness of our beautiful, beautiful feathered companions. We're also going to have fantastic guests on to share their beautiful moments, experiences, and perhaps maybe a little bit of help and advice to come your way to make your relationship between you and your bird so much better. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for tuning into the Bird Whisperer radio show this evening. We're broadcasting, as you know, to 192 free countries worldwide, and we have a very special guest with us tonight. Her name is Leve, and she lives in Canada, and she is going to share some of her stories and some of her feelings about having bird. Ross, are you there?
I certainly am.
Welcome to the show. Welcome. Very, very honored to
Thank
have
you.
So
it's
I'd like.
An honor to be with you.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, I'm going to start out with asking you first of all, how did you first get into birds? What caused your interest to want to love these cute little creatures trapped in bird clothing, if you will?
Well, I've always been a huge bird lover. I'm a huge animal lover, but birds always had a special place in my heart, and I think I was born like that. I didn't get my first bird until I was 10. It was a little budgie named Tweety, and then 6 months, a year after that, I got another budgie named Twinkle. As a kid, before I got my birds, I used to find deceased birds, and I would bring them home and bury them in the yard. So my life has always been about the birds.
Aww. So what was the very first bird that you got?
My budgie Tweety.
Tweety. Okay. And anything special about Tweety that you can recall that stands out in your mind, in your heart?
Oh, well, we had such a close bond. Just everything that he did. We were the best of buddies, and we were very close, and we spent a lot of time together, and he was just the sweetest little guy.
When you speak of being close and all, this is one of the things I want to share with you peeps out there, is that a lot of people don't really realize that the budgies, the smaller birds, have the same kind of feelings and know what it means to be loved, know what it means to give love and all, just like your larger parrots and things of that nature. When you decided to take and graduate, if you will, up to perhaps getting a larger bird, what was the first larger bird than a budgie that you have or had?
I believe it was a cockatiel. Oh my gosh, I've had so many birds over the years. It's like, I don't even remember which one it was. It was so long ago. And I guess over the years I've had, budgies, cockatiels, conures, senegals, a cockatoo, doves, and my blue and gold macaw.
Wow. It sounds like you've definitely run the gamut on the bird world, the bird kingdom, so to speak, and gotten a nice taste of a lot of different kinds of little feathers and winged clothing. What birds do you presently have now with you?
Well, I've got my blue and gold macaw, Bacardi.
Good name, I like it.
Yeah, she came with that name. It's adorable, though. And then I've got Belle, my orange-winged Amazon. I have the two cockatiels, Mojo and squeakers. I have a dove named Tangy. And then I've got 4 budgies, Ash and Charlie. Charlie is actually disabled, but he's just the sweetest little guy. And then I've got Betty and Wilma. So 9 at the moment.
Betty and Wilma, is that from, let's see, the Flintstones?
The Flintstones.
Oh.
It certainly is.
Okay.
I have goldfish. Actually, one is Wilma, and Fred and Barney are the other 2.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, tell me this. What kind of relationship do you have with your blue and gold macaw, Bacardi? What's it like?
Well, it was rather a rough start. She spent the first 7 years of her life as a mascot in a pet store, and she was very, very abused, not only by the public, but by the people at the pet store. So she was actually 9 when I came upon her. The pet store had closed down for a couple years, and a lady had taken her for those 2 years. So when I got her, she actually hated women because she had been abused quite a bit by women. It took probably about 3 years before she even started to trust me. I freaked her out, and I got a lot of bites from her, but I was patient and stubborn, and she was so worth it. And now we have a bond that I can hardly explain. It's like a soul bond. We are so close, and she is my child, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for her.
That's one of the reasons why I love you so much. You have one of those magical, beautiful hearts that you wear on your sleeve, and your birds know it. One of the things that I want to mention real quick, and what you just said, that it took 3 years of patience and bites and determination and love and all of it. And you know, there's a lot of people out there I know that I have heard, if you will, that really don't have that kind of patience, don't have that kind of belief. So folks, listen up, all right? Sometimes you can bond with a bird immediately, and sometimes it takes a country minute. But the beautiful, delicious payoff of all of it is that if you hang in there and they finally believe and feel the thought that keeps your heart beating. When you mentioned abused, without being, totally, overwhelmingly graphic and all, what happened to this bird? Why was he in such bad shape regarding trusting people and all when you finally brought him to your home?
Well, being in a pet store, you're going to get poked and prodded, and your tail pulled and things like that. Apparently there were some ladies that would chase her with a broom, and I think that's what caused her distrust in women. So she didn't have a very good life for the first 9 years. And then I got her, and I've had her for 17 years.
Wow.
And yeah, she's going to be 26, I believe.
Wow.
Next month. And so she had gone through a lot in her life, and I just wanted to make it better.
Well, it certainly sounds like that's exactly what you did, what you were doing, and what you're going to continue to do with her. Bless your heart. That's awesome. Like I said, it's really, we're friends, folks. Ross and I are friends, and I've communicated with her from time to time for a long, long time, and she has one of the most magical, beautiful hearts that I know of on the planet, and that's another reason why I wanted to have her on our show this evening, especially the story regarding Bacardi. Now, you also mentioned that you currently have a cockatoo, is that correct?
No, actually,
oh, an Amazon.
An Amazon, my orange-winged Amazon. I got her 3 years ago. And she had also been abused. And about 6 months ago, she just started to trust me. She was absolutely terrified of me. So it was about 6 months ago. And she ran up to me and demanded scratches all of a sudden out of the blue when I was standing there talking to her. And now she's demanding scratches all the time. She's learning to give kisses. She does high fives. She's actually starting to play with toys. So she's really come a long way too.
That's awesome. Let me ask you something real quick. All of a sudden there was a moment there in which all of a sudden whatever fear or hesitation that she had regarding being close to you, do you remember by any chance, and I know I'm really stretching it here, but do you remember by any chance perhaps maybe what was in your heart or what was in your mind when all of a sudden she came to you and wanted the tactile, wanted to be touched and all? Do you recall that moment?
Oh, I absolutely do. I stand and I talk to her just in a very low voice, or I whisper, or I'll sing to her. And one morning, I was standing there, and I had my head sort of laying on the top of her cage. Excuse me. And she's always on top of her cage. She never gets locked up. And I was just telling her good morning, and I love you, and you're such a pretty girl, and I was whispering, and just looked at her, and I just love her. And she looked at me, and she ran right up to me and put her head down, just out of the blue. And I just started crying. I was so happy.
I would too.
Yeah.
That is, that's what I love about people like yourself that don't give up. Continue to let that beautiful spirit that resides in all of us, to have the patience, to be able to come out and trust these little guys, to believe that you have enough going on inside of you that when you pick one of them up and you hold him close to your chest and close your eyes and imagine two hearts beating as one, when they get that, yeah, that's when the tears flow. That's when you know that you're doing it right. And
absolutely. And I let them go at their own pace. I have endless patience, and they have as long as they need to feel comfortable.
Endless patience.
Yeah.
I find that impressive.
Why, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, it's like with Facebook and other social media and stuff regarding patience, so many posts, so little time, put the blue thumbs up and keep on going to the next thing, and a lot of people sometimes, believe it or not, that's actually, it will take and augment your way of responding to your birds and create impatience with people sometimes. Because they're not slowing down. They're not slowing down to get back in touch with their hearts. They're listening too much of what's going on in their heads. And it appears that you have found the secret, okay, which I say with love and respect. You found the secret of allowing your spirit to be able to come out and play. It's a playground basically of delight and trust and love. And before you know it, all of a sudden, the birds that you have want to play in your playground. You know, they want to be in your universal playground and share the love and share the magic. And I just, once again, I just think that you are really, really an absolutely wonderful human being, and welcome to another day on the planet, you know.
Oh, thank you, Michael. And you are too.
Nah, I don't. Well, I do the best I
incredible.
can. I love my babies unconditionally and all. And but anyway, I wanted to ask you real quick. You live in the country of Canada.
I do.
Can you tell me a little bit about where you live, what it's like when you look out your windows, when your birds look out their windows, what they see and all?
Well, I live in Edmonton, Alberta, and we get way too much winter here. We definitely get the 4 seasons, and hopefully the summers are really nice. My birds love being outside. Well, most of them at least. I live in an apartment where I'm on the top floor, and in front of me is all trees. So we can just sit on the balcony, and it looks like we're in the country because all you can see is trees in the summer.
That's awesome.
When all the leaves are on and stuff. It's fantastic. I would love to be somewhere warmer where they could be outside a lot more, but have to work with the weather here.
I know sometimes it's like when you realize you've got the weather right where it wants you, you either decide, okay, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to be a human popsicle for X amount of weeks here, and with due diligence, and in the summertime, I'm going to wipe sweat off my forehead. And in between all of that, I'm going to revel in having another day on the planet.
Absolutely. And another day on the planet with my baby.
There you go.
Because that is such an honor and privilege and gift.
I love the way you put that it's an honor and that it's a privilege to have another day with your flock. That's what I'm talking about out there, peeps. And that is, you know, there's a select few on the planet that really, really feel the way you do, Ross, with their birds. You know, that it's just not waking up another day and, okay, I've got to feed him, I've got to do the water, got to do this, it's a chore or something or whatever, but you actually, you know, it's to me, it's one of the most beautiful gifts that this universal playground has to offer us, because we're all here for a very short amount of time. But to have a beautiful, beautiful little angels, if you will, living angels in real time, you know, to come to you and just bring tears of joy that just run down your face like there's just no ending. It's never ending, and your heart just sings, and they feel it, and they become a part of it. And somehow the combination between you and the bird or birds ends up being so much more than either of you would ever realize on your own. Ross, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, sweetheart, for sharing some of the magic of who you are and some of the beautiful things in how you relate to your birds, how you got your birds to trust you, but most of all, for having the patience to know that eventually this little guy was going to sing, and your heart was going to sing, and you hung in there, because not everybody does. So it's
no, unfortunately, no.
So it's having people like you on the show and sharing this with a whole lot of people. Like I said earlier, we're broadcasting to 192 countries, and there's people out there that sometimes aren't very patient with their birds. As patient as they should be, that sometimes good things take a minute, but it's worth it. And once again, bless your heart.
Thank you. And you too. You're a gift.
Well, we all have our, well, thank you very much. But this is about you, sweetheart, and we're going to go ahead and go to break here in just a second. But before we take and do that, once again, I want to say thank you very much, Ross Leve from Canada, Our Lady of Patience, if you will. All right, and living proof that if you give animals sometimes a minute to believe again, especially if they've gone through some horrible things regarding people and have a hard time trusting, that eventually if you do hang in there and you do listen to your heart and stop listening to your head, you're going to make it beautiful. Ross, thank you so very, very much, and I definitely want you to come back again on our show soon. And piles of smiles, and thank you so much, ma'am.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you too.
All righty. We would like to extend a sincere thank you to Tom Rowdybush, the creator of Rowdy Bush Foods. Find out the reasons Rowdy Bush food is the right choice for keeping your birds healthy and happy. When nutrition is important, Rowdy Bush premium foods are second to none. Rowdy Bush Incorporated manufactures specialized bird foods. This manufacturing is a result of research by an avian nutritionist, Tom Rowdybush. During his 16 years of nutritional research in the Department of Avian Sciences at the University of California, Davis, Tom studied a variety of birds, including 10 years of research on the nutritional requirements of companion birds. Mr. Rowdybush has generated most of the published nutritional research in pet birds. As far as pellets are concerned, Rowdybush is what we feed our flock exclusively here at the Global Nest Exotic Bird Sanctuary. You can order from them direct. It's Rowdybush, ROUDYBUSH.com. Their telephone number is 1-800-326-1726. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, peeps. I would like to leave you with this. One morning, I got a call from a young man that has a blue and gold macaw. He lives up north of where I am, about a 2-hour ride one way. He said he had heard of me and was wondering if I would help him with something. I replied, "What is it that you need?" He told me a story about his blue and gold, and how he has not been able to hold the bird in over 9 months. Well, those of you that know me, I was not going to let this one go. So I drove to his house. He introduced me to his bird. The cage was super clean, lots of toys, no dogs, cats, or other things that can have a tendency to set a large bird off from time to time, so to speak. I said, "Do you let him out, right?" He said, "Yes." I open the door, stand back, and the bird comes out and climbs up on top of the cage, which had a small play area on it. So I said, "Okay, show me." He walked over, he opened the door, and as he did, I noticed he stepped back about 6 feet. I looked at him and I said, "What are you doing?" That is when he shared with me the moment that fear destroyed their relationship. He showed me his right thumb, in which a long scar traveled almost the full length of it. He said the bird has bitten so hard he thought he was going to lose his thumb. I looked at the bird, I looked at him, and I said, so this is why you have allowed fear to take you down, regarding your bird? He looked back at me with the deer in the headlights kind of expression. The bird was still sitting on top of the open cage door. I looked at the bird, smiled, and said, hey bird, what's up? The bird lifted up his right hand as if to show me he wanted to step up. I asked the man, has he done this with you when you let him out? He said, oh yeah, all the time. I said, do you know what this means? What the bird is trying to convey to you? He said, yeah. He wants me to put my hand out so he can take my thumb off for good the next time. Man, I found myself actually beginning to get upset. With such a mindset, you know, so I turned around to the bird, smiled, and told him he was beautiful. Took a minute, relaxed. The bird put his hand up, and I put my 2 fingers right under his extended foot, and he hopped right up on me. I then brought him as soon as possible right to my chest, as I allowed my left hand to hold the center of his back. I gave him a quick kiss on the beak, and the bird gave me back one. I turned around and I said to the man, lift up your arm. He was more than just afraid. He was, well, there are no words. Once again I said, put your damn arm up and do it now. He did, and I sat the bird on his arm. He stood there like he was about to be sentenced to death. I said, you see, the bird is totally mellow with you. He's not attacking you, so why are you attacking him? The man said, what do you mean attacking him? I would never do that. I said, fear is one of the downfalls of the human race that birds interpret as aggressive. They do not understand it, and it causes them to what I refer to as the implementation of the preemptive strike. In other words, you are going to get nailed before something happens, according to the bird's perspective. I reached over and the bird hopped back on my hand, and I put him back into his cage. The man and I went outside and we talked for a while. We went back in, and once again I asked that he open the cage and let his bird out. He did, and just like before, he stood back about 6 feet. I said, you are so blowing it, dude. He had no idea until I called him on it that all he was doing was making sure that his bird and himself would never, ever be close again. I reached over. The bird hopped again up on my right hand. I gave him kisses, and I even let the bird tug a bit at my hair. I then said to him, raise your arm. This time he did it without even thinking about it. I set the bird on his wrist and said, now bring him to your chest and hold him. Just do it. He did. About 45 seconds went by, and I said, okay, now give him a kiss on the beak. And tell him that you love him, but tell him with your heart, not your head. And when you tell him, let everything that you have in your heart for him be transmitted in what you are saying to him. Please do not listen to what is in your head. Instead, listen to your heart. He did. And the tears began rolling down his face, and the bird snuggled with him. My eyes filled with tears as well, guys. I looked at him and I said to the both of them, welcome home. The day ended, if you will, in a most excellent fashion. I have not heard from him since. Good night, folks. I'll see you next week, 7 p.m. Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. The direct link to our show will be at the top of my timeline. It's that simple. Please remember, live life like you mean it. Good night.